My name is Rachel Bennett. I'm 35, a CPA with my own small firm, and for 4 years I believed that being the reliable one in my family was the same thing as being loved. I found out how wrong I was on the afternoon my 12-year-old niece walked up to my son's birthday cake, looked once toward my mother standing by the fence, and tipped a bucket of garden mud over it while my sister laughed like she'd just watched a sitcom punchline. That cake wasn't from a store. It was my late husband's recipe, written in his own slanted handwriting on a stained index card that my son and I pulled out every June like scripture. My husband, Michael, died 4 years ago when a truck crossed the median on the interstate, and in one afternoon I went from a wife to a widow with a 4-year-old son. Owen is 8 now, quiet like his father, obsessed with dinosaurs, and every birthday we bake that cake together because it's the closest thing to a hug his dad can still give him. I need you to understand who I was before that mud hit the frosting because it explains everything that came after. I don't miss deadlines. I don't misplace numbers. I have built my entire adult life around precision. But there was one account I never let myself look at closely, and it had my family's name attached to it. It started 3 weeks after the funeral, the way these things always start small. My sister Denise mentioned that her daughter Kayla's tennis club was raising its rates, and wouldn't it be a shame if real talent got priced out? That night I set up an automatic payment. Then Kayla needed a phone for tournaments, so I added a line to my plan. Then summer camp, because serious players go to camp. Then Denise's car broke down and she couldn't drive Kayla to practice, so I covered the repair. Groceries here. A utility bill there. Always framed as temporary. My mother called it family. I called it a bridge. That bridge stood for 4 years and quietly grew a $50,000 shadow I refused to add up. I want to be honest about why I let it happen. My parents were the only real family Owen had left. No cousins or grandparents on his father's side. Nobody but them. My mother picked him up from school every Tuesday during tax season. When your child's whole family tree fits on one branch, you tell yourself you'll pay whatever it costs to keep that branch alive. To understand my sister, you have to understand the sentence our family was built on. Denise was a tennis prodigy once, ranked statewide, until her shoulder gave out at 19 and ended it all in one afternoon. She married young, had Kayla, and the marriage didn't survive. My mother, Carol, a woman who kept books on everything including affection, used to say it proudly, like a slogan, "This family invests in its stars." I grew up on the other side of that sentence. I wasn't the star. I was the low-maintenance one, the one who made her own dinner during tournament season and called it independence. The dinner 2 weeks before Owen's birthday should have come with a warning label. My mother slid a glossy brochure across the table after the plates were cleared. Meridian Elite Tennis Academy, $25,000 a year. Denise didn't even bother with a pitch. She just said, "You have it. We both know you have it." For the first time in 4 years, I said no. Not loudly. Just no. My mother folded the brochure shut, patted it like an obedient pet, and said, "We'll see." In my family, "we'll see" was never a truce. It was a countdown. The week that followed had a temperature to it. My text stopped getting hearts and started reading like meeting minutes. Denise unfollowed me on everything. My mother sent a photo of Kayla mid-serve with a caption asking why Aunt Rachel didn't believe in her. Still, that week, I hand-addressed Owen's birthday invitations with dinosaur stickers and mailed one to each of them, because Owen wanted his cousin there more than he cared about any of the adult tension. That's the detail I still think about. I mailed the invitations to my son's worst day with my own hands. The party was small and perfect until it wasn't. 6 kids from Owen's class, a hand-painted dinosaur banner, hot dogs, the sprinkler running by early afternoon. My family arrived right on schedule, which should have been my first warning, because my sister is never on time. My mother was sweet in that particular way that always meant something was coming. Kayla drifted in last, nervous instead of sulky, orbiting near the flower bed by the back fence, the one place in the yard where the soil was soft and dark. At one point I saw her at that fence with my mother, heads close, my mother smoothing her ponytail while she talked. Something in me chirped a warning I chose to ignore, because hosting a party is the art of ignoring your own alarms. When I carried the cake out and lit the candles, Kayla was suddenly at the table holding the little gardening bucket, knuckles pale on the handle, eyes flicking once to my mother like a swimmer checking the lifeguard. She hesitated a full breath. Then she turned it over. Mud poured across the frosting, over the wobbly number 8 Owen had piped himself, over 2 days of butter and his father's handwriting. A candle snapped. A little girl screamed. And into the silence that followed came my sister's laugh, head back, hand on her chest, sunglasses off so she could wipe her eyes. Kids, right? Nobody laughed with her. My mother stepped up, looked at her devastated grandson, and delivered the line that would define the next month of my life. It's just cake, Rachel. Don't make it a thing. I didn't scream. I got Owen inside, and later that night, sitting on his bed with his father's recipe tin in his hands, he told me what he'd overheard at the fence 20 minutes before the cake came out, while he'd gone to retrieve a stray soccer ball. Kayla's voice hesitant. He's just a little kid. My mother's voice flat. Whose side are you on? And before that, a promise. A brand new phone, in exchange for doing it properly. I sat on the edge of my son's bed and felt the floor of my whole life shift. This wasn't a jealous kid's meltdown. It was a transaction. My mother, who taught Sunday school for over a decade, had negotiated with a 12-year-old at a fence to herd an 8-year-old, funded in spirit by the very money I'd been sending for 4 years. That night, once Owen was asleep, I opened a spreadsheet I'd built but never finished, a tab labeled simply Family. Every payment I'd ever made, logged with dates and memos, in 4 years of careful denial. I finally scrolled to the bottom and let myself see the total, just over $50,000. Tennis dues, camp deposits, a phone line, a transmission repair, groceries, and sitting below it, 2 future line items already booked and paid, a family trip to Disney in August and Kayla's summer intensive at the academy in July. I didn't scream that night either. I clicked, calmly, the way I close a client's books at year-end. I canceled the Disney trip, eating the deposit without a flinch. I canceled the camp registration, still inside the refund window by 2 days. I switched off the tennis club's autopay that had run like a heartbeat for 48 months. I scheduled Kayla's phone line, my name, my bill, to be disconnected at the end of the cycle. Then I wrote one email. No name calling, no adjectives. Just a full accounting. Every payment, every date, subtotaled by year, totaled at the bottom at the number that had been staring back at me. Beneath it, one closing line. This wasn't punishment, it was a closing statement, because accounts close when the terms are violated, and yesterday at a child's birthday party, they were. I scheduled it to send at 6 the next morning, and finally slept. By 7, my phone was ringing nonstop. I made pancakes instead of answering. What I later pieced together was this. My mother had given Kayla the new phone the very evening of the party, a reward for services rendered, and Sunday morning, while Kayla stood there admiring it, my sister read my email out loud. She got through the $50,000 total with a scoff. It was the last line that landed, camp canceled, the phone line ending with a billing cycle, because in that instant my niece understood the currency. She'd just been paid and was already dead. The phone slipped from her hands and cracked against the tile like a windshield. What followed was a week of pressure disguised as concern. My mother stood on my porch and called me cruel for punishing a child. I told her the child had been punished the day she was hired. Extended family sent messages about loyalty, having heard a version where a little dirt was accidentally spilled and no sum of money existed at all. My sister brought Kayla to my office for a stiff, rehearsed apology that never once mentioned mud or cake or the phone. I told my niece she owed me nothing, she never had, and that the answer was still no. That same week, my aunt gave me a piece of history I'd never let myself fully assemble, that this wasn't new. That when Denise was a rising junior player, our family had quietly drained my own college fund to pay for her coaches and tournaments, and I'd been told, with a shrug, that I was resourceful and would land fine. I'd spent 20 years calling that independence. My aunt called it what it actually was. I hadn't been a daughter in that house. I'd been the revenue. Later that week, my sister called at 1 a.m. and, for 90 honest seconds, told me the truth I'd never heard from her. That at 19 she'd learned the family savings were gone, spent on her shoulder, and that nobody had ever taught her how to be anyone other than someone who gets paid for. Then, just as fast, the old script returned. I owed it to Kayla to fix things, because I was the one who could. My father, a quiet man who spends every family gathering safely behind a grill, came to my office alone the day before the reconciliation dinner my mother had summoned everyone to. He confirmed the phone had been my mother's idea, bought before the party even happened. He admitted, for the first time, that they'd spent my college fund and called it strategy, while he watched me work 2 jobs through school and told himself I'd be fine. And then he said the thing I never expected: "Don't come to that dinner and pay. If you pay again, it never ends, it just changes shape." My mother called that evening with her terms laid out like an invoice. Reinstate the camp, rebook the trip, discuss the academy calmly, and all would be forgiven. Or don't come. And don't come at Christmas either. She hung up before I could answer, the way she always does, keeping the last word on layaway. I almost broke, alone at my kitchen table that night, cursor hovering over the button to reinstate the camp. One click, and at least the girl who didn't design this deal wouldn't lose her summer. Then Owen wandered in for water, saw the screen, and asked quietly if I was buying them back. And I heard myself answer before I'd even finished the thought. Love isn't an invoice. Nobody gets billed for it, and you can't buy it back with cam money. The dinner the next night was exactly the performance I expected. The good tablecloth, a second grace, thanking God for new beginnings, the brochure smoothed open beside the serving dishes, my sister delivering an apology with every real word filed out of it. My mother asked finally, "Are we a family or aren't we?" And I gave her the whole answer. For years, $50,000, one no, and 7 days later a 12-year-old bribed with a phone to destroy a dead man's cake in front of his son. I told my niece, gently, that none of it was her fault, that adults built the machine and adults handed her the bucket, and that my door would always be open to her even though my wallet wouldn't. Then I told my mother plainly that I hadn't been her daughter. I'd been her bank, and the bank was closed. I left a note by my sister's plate with a real job lead, a real salary at one of my clients. My mother told me not to bother coming back at Christmas. I thanked my father for dinner and walked out. I cried in my car 2 blocks away, not for the family I'd just lost to that table, but for the family I'd spent 4 years trying to buy, one that had never actually existed no matter what I paid for it. 90 days later, the accounting settled itself. My sister took that job and has shown up on time every single day since, the first paycheck of her adult life that didn't run through our mother's mythology. Kayla kept her phone, fixed on her mother's dime, and plays at the community courts now while Denise watches every practice, because watching, it turns out, is free. My mother kept her silence with the same discipline she brings to everything else. My father shows up at my house every Tuesday at 3 to pick Owen up from school, his own idea now, his own gas money. And the $650 that used to vanish into a tennis club every month goes straight into Owen's college fund instead. Same number, a completely different future. 2 weeks after that dinner, we threw the do-over party in the same backyard, under the same patched-up dinosaur banner. Owen and I baked the cake together the night before, his father's handwriting racing uphill across the card like always. This one came out a little lopsided. Owen declared that made it aerodynamic. Nobody at that party had been paid to be there, and somehow you could taste the difference in the frosting. In October, an envelope showed up in my mailbox in careful, round handwriting. Inside was a drawing, 2 kids at a table, a cake between them with 8 crooked candles, and underneath it, pressed hard enough to dent the paper. I'm sorry about the cake. For real. Nobody paid me to say that. I read it 4 times standing at the mailbox. Then I wrote back 1 line and sent it the next morning. I know, sweetheart. That's exactly how I can tell it's true. Here's what 4 years and $50,000 finally taught me, and it's the only thing worth keeping from all of it. Love isn't an invoice. And the moment someone hands you a bill for it, what you're holding in your hands isn't love anymore. It's rent. Hello, Clued. I have already shared my story above. Based on this story, I need a complete YouTube SEO package targeting a USA audience. Please provide everything in English. A highly clickable, SEO-optimized YouTube title. A professional SEO description. SEO tags. Relevant hashtags. I also need thumbnail text. I will share my competitor's thumbnail. Please analyze it carefully and create thumbnail text in the same style, structure, and number of lines, but make it completely unique and based on my story. In addition, I need a prompt that I can give to ChatGPT to recreate my competitor's thumbnail according to my story. The prompt should instruct ChatGPT to keep the overall thumbnail layout, composition, and visual style similar. Replace the competitor's thumbnail text with the new text you created for my story, using the same color style. Replace the woman in the thumbnail with the female character I provide. Do not change her face or skin tone. Only modify her hairstyle and clothing to match my story. Mention the appropriate hairstyle and outfit in the prompt. Keep the final thumbnail in a professional, high CTR YouTube style. If I don't provide my own female character image, then use the woman from the competitor's thumbnail as the base and only change her hairstyle and outfit according to my story while replacing the text with my new thumbnail text.